Hey, everybody, welcome. So excited to see you. And I know there's going to be some people kind of coming on here as we get things rolling and get things started. So, welcome. We're excited to share a little bit about the new video that came out from Horses for Mental Health. So, each May, Mental Health Awareness Month, Horses for Mental Health, which is a nonprofit advocacy organization, puts out a fundraising and awareness campaign to support organizations who are providing mental health and personal growth services incorporating horses. And this is our fourth year. So 2025 is our fourth annual campaign. We're really excited. We have 95 organizations that are participating in the peer-to-peer fundraising part. And part of the campaign is to make videos of actual stories of transformation, actual cases that come from some of these organizations so that people can get an idea of what the horses bring to this process. How does transformation look? How does this work? These types of services. And so I want to start off by thanking our title sponsor for the campaign, Zoetis Equine. We couldn't be doing it without their support, as well as all the many partners that are involved in this and supporting and uplifting this campaign. And it's thanks to them and everybody being involved that we're able to have the resources to make these incredible videos. And so I love these videos that are these case stories, because I think in just 3 minutes, they're only 3 minutes, they're animated, which is kind of fun to see that too. I remember when we first discussed about doing animation in these videos, that it was like, well, I don't, what will that look like? But the really neat thing about the animation is it's able to really, I think, display the feeling of the story while maintaining the confidentiality of the clients who it's based on. And so, so one of the new videos that we have produced this year for this year's campaign is called Moving Through Grief. And it's based on a case story from Hope Meadows Foundation. And so that's who we have here with us today. And I think I forgot to introduce myself. I'm Lynn Thomas, co-founder of Arenas for Change, or ARCH, and also co-founder of Horses for Mental Health, who does the campaign. And I'm really excited to introduce Kichurchak. I said,
yes,
and Donna Zalar. I was like, maybe I shouldn't say your last names, but yeah, no, Donna and thank you guys so much for joining us to share more of the behind the scenes stories of that client story and of the amazing work that you guys are doing incorporating horses at Hope Meadows Foundation in Ohio. And for those of you who are watching, again, welcome. Please feel free, if you'd like, in the chat to ask any questions as we have our discussion and talking about grief and about the work and what horses bring to the process of going through a grief journey. And so I'm going to turn it over now to you. And I think you were going to start us off with, if you guys both will just introduce yourself and tell us about Hope Meadows Foundation, and we'll start there.
So. Thanks, Lynn. I appreciate you having us today. It's an honor to be speaking on this topic and with you and everyone else. So my name is Kichurchak. I do have a little cheat sheet here, so I stay on task. So I'm a co-founder of Hope Meadows. Michelle and I met in high school. Our backstories are we both were struggling with depression, anxiety, eating disorders, suicidal thoughts. Our healing journeys were very different. Michelle's was rooted in faith, while mine led me to an organization out west. It was called Remuda Ranch, which is now the Meadows. And Michelle's was rooted in faith. And a big part of my healing was very profound and very impacted by horses. It was there that I experienced life-changing moments. And I also found my why. And through my experience, what I realized is I never wanted anyone to feel isolated in the way that I did or trapped in their struggles. I was afraid to share my inner thoughts and fear of rejection and judgment. And I want everyone to know that they are not alone. And this being Mental Health Awareness Month, especially, which is amazing that we're having this conversation. So my healing journey was there and it was amazing, which then brought us years later. Michelle and I crossed paths in the hallway at our kids' school. And at the time, we were both working in our careers, um, but we were both feeling unfulfilled. And so our conversations eventually naturally turned back to our past and what our healing journeys were, and a deep desire to create something meaningful in our backyard that we didn't have at the time. From what our shared experiences were. So in 2018, we co founded Hope Meadows with a mission to make equine assisted counseling accessible to those struggling with mental health challenges. What began as a dream has blossomed into a community of over 16 dedicated team members. We have 18 equines. And today, Hope Meadows operates out of 2 healing spaces. One is my personal property in Richfield, and then our main hub facility here in Wadsworth. And as we grow, we are very intentional about building our team with, our equine specialists and our therapists who share a passion and understanding for healing. We definitely believe that it's critical that all of our shared experiences align with our own powerful stories and our own whys. And I think that's what drives our work and what we do. Donna, who Lynn mentioned, is one of our incredible team members who will be sharing her journey and her why, and give some really great examples of some of the groups that she serves and has experience in through. But I also want to say, Lynn, I'm actually very grateful, thankful to you and your whole team, and the passion and just all of your knowledge, and very much like a mentorship to us here at Hope Meadows. I think it's amazing what you've created. And then also, obviously, the video this year, and we'll get into that and the client experience and what that day was and what that looked like. But if it's okay, I'll shift to Donna really quick. If you want to introduce yourself, Donna.
Yeah. And thank you, Anne.
Sorry if that was long-winded.
Oh no, that was wonderful, and thank you. Yeah, it's been wonderful traveling this journey. We were just talking about how our paths kind of reconnect and interconnect, and I think a lot of people who do this work can have that experience. It's a nice small world in some ways. So
It really is.
Yeah, it really is. And I'm like you, Ann. I have a cheat sheet too, so I have to put my glasses on so I don't forget something. But my name's Donna. Um, I've been with Hope Meadows now for about 5 years. The first year and a half as a board member, and now as an equine specialist. But a little bit of my story: I grew up with horses. I've had a lifetime love of these animals, and for as long as I can remember, at least until I went to college, our family had horses, and I spent probably every day of my life either riding or just spending time in the fields or the barns. As an adult, I was able to return to this passion and I started riding lessons and eventually purchased a horse as an adult. And that's where I met Anne at the barn where I was boarding at. We became friends and riding buddies. And this is where I learned about Hope Meadows and the equine health organization she had co founded with Michelle. She continued sharing her story with me and her why, and she just kind of kept drawing me in. Um, and honestly, I knew about animal therapy, dogs, goats, kittens, and even riding therapy, but I was not aware of equine mental health therapy. And frankly, it sounded a little bit made up. I wasn't sure I understood it or actually believed it. And I was raised in a very conservative spiritual foundation, which I still rely on. However, it also was an upbringing that dismissed mental health and support for getting help if it was outside of the church. It made me a little uncomfortable to hear someone talk about needing therapy or that they were seeing a therapist. So during this time, I was encouraged to explore the work at Hope Meadows. I served on the board for about a year and a half. And during this time, I experienced the true power of equine therapy and learned so much about the need for providing this unique treatment. It exposed areas in my own life that I had buried and covered up with excuses and cliches just to avoid facing some hard things. I've always felt that I had a very strong insight and intuition about people's stories and what is often hidden in their words. I felt called to step down from the board to pursue training as an equine specialist. And as I went through that training and mentoring, I learned how to use horses to open a safe space for people to read and rewrite their own stories and heal. The foundational practices I learned 3 years ago cracked open my doubt, and I would even say fear about mental health. I feel that adding the power of the story lens is kind of a superpower, and I want every person to have access to experience this in their healing journey. I truly believe much of our mental health does have a spiritual foundation, but I've also learned the value and power of therapy services, and it's been amplified in my work with Anne and our treatment team. It doesn't lessen my faith or spiritual foundation, but adds a layer of richness to what we're doing at Hope Meadows. Decades ago, I watched the movie Mad Max at Thunderdome. And in that movie, there's kind of a scene, a thread about the tell, where the community is gathering to listen to someone telling the stories of their past and family. And um, through my own life and family history, we've often shared our tell, which is kind of tragic when you lay it out in facts and timelines. But I don't want anyone to ever feel like their a story or their tell is bad or broken. And if I can be part of helping someone see their story as something beautiful and powerful, um, that's where I find joy. And I feel like the horses are a lightning rod to healing. And that is my why.
Mm, that's beautiful. Thanks, Donna. And I think that really moves right into this story in particular, which is about grief, about loss. So the video we're talking about is from the Horses for Mental Health Seen Through Horses campaign, the 3-minute case story video that's based on one of your actual clients. And she lost her husband to cancer. And yeah, the beginning of the story, she shares about what it was like being in that level of grief that she was in. And I don't know if there's anything, like, if you guys would have any thoughts to share. I mean, I think it was, she talked about in her grief and in that loss and that story, like you're saying, Donna, like, where's the beauty in that? In that you lose your husband, you're in a deep amount of grief. She talked about how she would just keep herself busy as she could with doing housework, just kind of like trying to keep her mind, knowing that she's not really moving through, or whatever the people around her are also telling her. But could you share more about that beginning part of what it was like to be in that kind of grief?
Yeah, I think with this case, this client came to us actually. She had seen a news story on TV. And so, like, even I think in the video, it says just something told this client to just go. And so we try to really take people where they're at when they walk through our doors, whether it's grief or whether it's an addiction or, kids or PTSD, whatever the case may be. We always try to meet clients where they're at. And I think in this case, walking through the doors, you kind of don't know what you're coming in with. And the thing I love about this story is this person articulates it so beautifully in the sense that, much like grief, horses can move in and out multiple times of day of different feelings and emotions, and comparing that to maybe what this client was feeling in that moment, and probably much like a lot of people struggling with different grief in their life, you move in and out of different things, in and out of fear, anger, sadness, the list kind of goes on. And I think now, which it's really cool because doing that video with that individual, there was that experience that day was definitely an aha moment because, again, if we look at different words, different feelings and emotions, Lynn, if it's okay if I dive into the suitcase.
Sure. Yeah. Maybe give some context about, well, actually, before you dive into the suitcase real quick, Anne, can you, because what I hear you talk about, so here's someone who is in really a deep abyss of grief. And she came to your program. She was inspired. She saw something, came to your program. And what really impacted me too was that she felt safe in a way she hadn't felt before. And I guess that's what what you were sharing there too about that first step of what does it take to feel safe like that? And if that's okay to start with there, because seemed like that was the first step. And then, yeah, I'd love to share about, because that was a very unique part of the story of what happened with Dirk, the horse, and this suitcase. But yeah, what's your
No, thank you for bringing it back to safe. I think a lot of times, and with that client, safe, not judged, like welcomed into an environment of unknowing, because I think anytime anybody comes into an experience with equine counseling, you really don't know what to expect, and as far as Hope Meadows goes, we are not riding. We are all on the ground, different experiences. And so I think when I think of safety, just felt accepted, walked along with. And, every week kind of was different. Like we got further into the arena or we worked with a different horse. And so through all those different experiences, safety was built with the treatment team, but also with the horses and all the different horses that client chose to work with. And so I think safe was a lot of non-judgment and just not get over it kind of approach, if that's helpful.
Yeah, that's great. Because she did even talk about it, how it felt like there were messages coming from maybe others in her life that was like, why weren't you getting past, it's time to move on or move through this a little more quickly. And it sounded like, yeah, what you're saying of just being with at her pace and the horse's pace. Yeah, so that was, I thought, a really important and beautiful part of the setting that you guys created at Hope Meadows there, and with that safety. So yeah, tell us about the suitcase and what that was an interesting part of the film that maybe it's like, okay, wait, where's this suitcase come from? So what is, can you say more about that?
Yeah, so a lot of times with some of our clients, part of their experience, their stories is built with different things. And so on that particular day, it was a suitcase and it was a pink suitcase. And it was filled with some words that had been put in from the prior experience. And so that day in particular, we worked with Dirk, and Dirk was very standoffish, which was unusual for that horse that day because typically that horse is very inquisitive. And that day he was not and wouldn't come near the suitcase. And so after spending time and kind of really holding space and thinking about, well, what is in the suitcase? What words could we maybe look to see are in there? Or, what baggage are we still, holding on to that could be true or untrue? So encouraging to maybe dive into that a little closer. And so upon opening the suitcase, that word abandon really stuck out. And again, in the video, it's just beautifully expressed like how powerful that moment really was for that individual, because that was a word that was put in there that was not true. And so the moment of removing that word and getting rid of it out of that story completely just shifted the whole experience. And then things felt lighter and horse moved in. And in the video that's so beautifully illustrated, like really what you see in that video is what happened. That horse came near and close and supported. And there was a huge release of a lot of, I think, emotions in that moment. And so I think, again, thinking about grief, it's like we all have grief in our life. And I think if we all think about it, it's with the suitcase, what are things that we carry with us that we can think about maybe taking out? I don't know. It makes you.
Yeah, I mean, and these were words that she chose to put
These
in
were
the
words that she
suitcase.
chose. Yes, correct. Yes.
And was it significant that it was pink too, or was there?
No, it just, we actually, though, we do have two different size suitcases. We have a bigger one and a smaller one. But it just happened to be the smaller one.
Yeah, well, I think that what a neat symbol of what we carry and and the stories, the words, the stories we carry. And yeah, that was so amazing in that video because here's a horse that wouldn't maybe normally approach her
Right,
and now wasn't. And
right.
why? What was different? And this idea of, well, is there something you're carrying that maybe you could look at and see? And the first word being abandoned, like you said, and that was what was so neat and what I think really illustrates how horses bring something so unique. Because not only did the horse interact in the relationship with the client differently that day, but then as soon as she saw that word abandoned and how that impacted her, I think in the video it even says like it hit her like a punch in the gut, like it just, and her realizing, why am I carrying this word when I know it's not true? Of course my husband didn't choose to die by cancer.
Right.
He didn't abandon me, but that's the story I'm carrying. And as soon as she turned the word over, like what changed that? I mean, Dirk the horse goes right up to her. Like,
Yeah. I think just taking that heavy away of this word that was in there, that was just the energy, I don't know, and then just removing it out of the story completely is what really changed the whole experience. In that aha moment of this word is not part of my story and my experience.
yeah, I mean, that it just, and what that meant to her to start, like, it's time for me to let go of the stories that are actually intensifying
Mhm.
my grief that aren't really the real story. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think too, like I'm sure all of you can relate, like different horses provide different experiences and different energies. And I think that day, that horse being so big and the color, it was just such a aha moment because that horse is so big. So that moment was so big, you know?
Oh, I know, Don. So Donna, and I know you do a lot. I don't know if you were in that session per se, or if you've just seen how the horses behave like that. Any thoughts on your end?
Yeah. Yeah, I was not, I never met this particular client or personally was involved, but I worked probably for almost a year with a group of women that had come out. They had all lost their spouses, um, kind of in a traumatic way in the past year. So they came out as a group. Um, I think they all felt like they had been coping okay and they had each other, but something that we realized is that, grief is not linear. It doesn't go through that little grief cycle we all know about, the however many stages of grief. Like Anne was saying, the horses move in and out, and we move in and out of these grief points. Something kind of funny that it's coincides with Dirk, because Dirk is kind of a fan favorite at the barn, but we did an exercise with these ladies where we had strips of paper and we were talking about what others put on them through their grief journey. Not just, like for this client, the abandonment she had kind of put on herself, that she had felt abandoned. We had them write on strips of paper emotions or feelings that others had put on them, like that expectation to just get over it, or why aren't you happy, or aren't you done grieving yet? So they wrote all these strips of paper. We had them make them into a paper chain, so each of them had their own chain, and the intention was to have them put them on, select a horse and put the chain, just clip it on the horse. They all chose Dirk. So Dirk is this big animal. He has probably 5 paper chains clipped to his halter. Now this is paper, so it weighs almost nothing. And they clipped them all on Dirk. And then we asked them to move Dirk through a path. Dirk wouldn't move. His head went to the ground. His nose was almost touching the ground. He literally stood like a broken horse and would not move. And it was just a really profound visual of, we talked about, he didn't ask to carry those chains. They were put on him. And, how everyone had been feeling like literally carrying things they felt obligated to hold, but yet they weren't, they were just placed on them without their permission or their choice. And it was a really profound moment, really, in their grief journey, and realizing how do you release from that. And over the time of the session, Dirk would shake his head. Once in a while, a chain would fall off or a piece would fall off, and then he still wouldn't move, though. It was really just incredible. And so we then finally asked them, what should we do? Remove those. They unclipped the papers, and it's hard, like me, I'm kind of a doubter, and when I see it happen, it's just like magical every time. But as soon as they unclipped all those chains and threw them on the ground, Dirk's head came up. He walked through the path, kind of like Ann said. Once she took that abandonment out of that, everything felt lighter, and movement and going forward. And it was really a powerful picture of that journey through grief that we're all going through at one time or another.
Oh my gosh, thank you. That is so powerful. And again, these horses do such unique things like that, that play right into the experience that people are feeling inside. And now they're, like you were saying, they're in this big, they're large, and they're like embodying this whole experience in this really large way. I mean, what do you guys, with your group and with this client in this video, what is it about those moments that horse, like Dirk the Star sounds like, what is it you think that's so impactful for those clients with those moments?
I think for the client I am speaking about, I think unpacking like what's in this suitcase, like what is everything that we are carrying around. Sometimes we put words in there that we don't even realize we're carrying, and those heavy feelings. And again, I think with grief, it's true. You go in and out of it with many emotions throughout the day, and it never goes away. It's just, you have different emotions experienced throughout the day, but we all carry different things. And so sometimes seeing what's in there and then seeing what maybe shifted and doesn't fit, or maybe it never did fit, but when you're in it, you don't even recognize sometimes what it really is until things and moments and aha moments like that happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. I think that it just really helps them get out of their own body, and just this experience that you're kind of stuck in sometimes, and give you that picture outside of yourself, and to see this powerful animal. And I will say, most of, at least the ladies I've worked with, and actually probably all the clients that come in, especially in grief, they feel like they've been really strong, and they really feel like they're managing life and getting over it, or if that's the word a lot of people like to use. But it just helps them see that they really don't have to carry that, and they really can put it on the ground. It doesn't go away, or just ask someone else to carry it with them and move through that grief without such a burden.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, I feel like that came across really well in the video, the moving through grief video, one about just the moving through.
Mhm.
And that was something that stood out that you guys have shared now. Both of you shared about that grief is something that, just like the horses, it moves in and out. Um, it's not like oh, I've arrived. it's a, it's a constant of different emotions and things. And so, and it was really neat to do this project with you guys and work on the script and,
Mhm.
hear more of the details about what happened with this particular client that's featured in the video. And what was cool is she played a big part in that process of us producing this, and what that experience was like for her. And of course, then getting to see the video of her story. Can you guys share a little bit about not only how the journey at Hope Meadows impacted her, but even being part of this video project impacted her?
Yeah, I can actually read and share a little something that she shared with us after the video, if that's okay with you. But I
Yeah.
also wanted to share, like, your team was so amazing at supporting this person through that, because I think when you share experiences and kind of go back to remember those moments, it can be painful and it can bring a lot of things up. And so I just want to give you guys a shout out, because I think it was really amazing how supportive you and your team were with helping that client relive that experience in the arena, but also allow that client to use their words and their experience in the way that they needed to. So thank you for that. And with that, I will share. Um, it says, I watched the video. It's hard for me to step outside of myself to commend you on how amazing this project and video was, because it's about me. I love it. I love every part of it. The illustration, the words, the voiceover, the grief in the first frame was so real. And to see the single aha moment blew me away. It took me over a year to put into words what was happening in therapy. People would ask, and I would say, you have to experience it. It was all I could offer. I was hoping that this is a Cliff Note version for newcomers. They have to trust. I was proud to see Hope Meadows at the end. So I just thought that was just, again, kudos to all of you for being able to articulate and share these moments to help other people understand what it is we all do, but also in a respectful and heartfelt way.
Yeah, well, thank you, and thanks to her for her willingness to share her story and go through this process, so other people can understand what, hopefully get a little bit of a taste of what this is like and how it can benefit so many people. And appreciate what you guys do at Hope Meadows and all the people you're serving and having these incredible experiences. Do you guys have any other things that you'd like to share, or thoughts you have about this work, incorporating horses to benefit mental health and grief and loss, and the work you do at Hope Meadows?
I just love that the way we can partner with horses, when I think traditional therapy is amazing and great, but I think sometimes we can hit barriers and walls. And so I think it's really amazing that we can offer these experiences to have individuals, clients, groups come out and work with things that maybe are in our body that we can't articulate or express verbally, but through the interactions with the horses, we're able to work through some hard things. And then having a supportive team along with is amazing.
Yeah, I agree. And I think what you said at the beginning, Anne, is, the ability to just meet people where they're at and give them a chance to just expose themselves. But then also through our team, um, this the ability to really craft the right treatment and the right approach to really reach exactly what they need. And the horses, I don't know, I feel like they just give us a really unique place to do that.
Yeah. Well, I thank you guys for sharing your story. Thank you for all that you do. And your Hope Meadows Foundation is one of the 95 charity partners that are participating in the Seen Through Horses campaign this year. And you can go and support these organizations by going to horsesformentalhealth.org and picking one of the charity partners to support and give and uplift the incredible work that they're doing. And then if you guys want to share your website directly too, and we can put it in the comments and the links that people can learn more about Hope Meadows Foundation.
Yes, I will put it in the comments.
Okay. And so, we'll put that link if you guys want to reach out to Donna and Ann directly or visit them in Ohio or refer clients to the great work that you guys are doing. And so thank you so much. And thank you again to your incredible client for going on this journey with us and sharing her story. And you guys can go watch it on horsesformentalhealth.org under the stories tab, or you can go to the YouTube channel. And again, we'll have a link in the comments of this recording and stuff to check out that 3-minute case story and hopefully share it with others who are going through grief, share it with others who might resonate with the story. So thank you guys for joining us. And yeah, good to see you. Thank you. And we'll catch you next time. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, Lynn.